Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me. This is Ciara from Ciara T Designs, and today I have this alcohol ink tree silhouette card to share with you. So let's jump right in. So I am using some leftover pieces of Yupo. I say pieces, I used a piece. I'm kind of working through the leftover piece that I have just because I have some weird sized stuff, and I thought it'd be kind of fun to just play with the size of piece that I have and have that be the main focus of this card. So I brought in 3 different colors of alcohol ink, and my idea for this was kind of that there was a sky behind my trees. And now granted, this doesn't necessarily make sense for colors, but I don't really care because it's my card and I can do whatever I want. So keep that in mind with this color palette and kind of where the sun is. Because in my thoughts, where I've dropped the yellow, which is sunshine yellow, by the way, that's where I'm thinking that my sun is. So I'm kind of trying to work out from yellow to orange to pink and have that be the background colors. So the 3 colors I used, these are the Tim Holtz Alcohol Inks Sunshine Yellow. The orange is Splendor, which is a pearl oxide ink, alcohol ink. And then for the pink, I have raspberry. And now I find alcohol inks to be one of the most rewarding mediums to play with because you can't control it. Some can. There are some amazing alcohol ink artists out there and their work is just mind-boggling. But for me personally, I find that alcohol ink is one of those mediums that you have an idea, but you get whatever you get. Like, it's just like Tim Holtz always says, you get what you get, you don't throw a fit. I think alcohol ink really lends itself towards that. You can bring in a brush, you can control it more, but I like to just let it flow because I love that kind of flowy look of alcohol inks. I think that's one of my favorite ways to work with this medium. And so though I had the idea of a sky and I knew I wanted to put the trees in front of it, I didn't really worry so much about where any of the colors were except the yellow because I wanted the lightest part of my sky to be where I thought the sun would sit. And the only reason I really concerned myself with that is because when we get to the trees, I do want to add some highlights to them. So I was keeping in mind where my light source was. Now, you don't need to do that. You can just add highlights wherever you want. It's art. You can just make whatever you want to make. There is no art police, though there will be people who will tell you what they think, and that's okay, subjective. But at the end of the day, as long as you're happy with what you've made, that's what matters. So I think that if you're struggling with control, alcohol ink can be a really fun way to just play. So I do bring in blending solution. You see me add it in random areas as I just play with my 3 colors. And I've kind of gotten my sun where I want it to be now. You can see it's kind of that brightest point up in the left-hand corner. I do tend towards a left-hand corner light source. That's just what I always kind of tend towards, but there's no right or wrong way for that. That's just what I enjoy. And I did that intentionally because I knew where I wanted my highlights to be. So that is, and what's funny is that once I'm, I stop myself. I'm kind of like, okay, this is done now and we're done. So that footage was sped up, but only by 100% is one time, like it's up to 200%. So literally you watched me make that. It only took me 12 minutes, I think, to make that background because I try really hard not to overthink alcohol ink. I kind of just play, and when it's pretty, I stop, right? Like it's one of those things where I guess you just have to kind of be okay that it is what it is and you just appreciate it for what it is. And I think that's a lot easier to say about someone else's work than your own, but alcohol ink is just a really fun medium to play with. And if you haven't played with it before and you think that it might be interesting, grab a couple bottles. You only need, 2 or 3 colors. Make sure that they're colors that kind of go together in as much as they won't make brown. So, blue and purple or orange and yellow and pink and, or pink and purple, like just make sure you're picking colors that won't make brown. So like don't do red and green because they will make brown. And then just have a play, there's no wrong way to learn, and I think that that's the funny thing. We get to a point where we think we have to be perfect at everything, so we just don't try because there's no way for you to be perfect on the first go. So we don't want to play because we might look stupid. But it's funny because who would I don't know who would judge you. I sure as heck wouldn't. So if you want to have a play with a material and you want to show it to somebody, show it to me. Shoot me an email, shoot me a message, whatever. I'll check it out. Like, I want you guys to play with your mediums and really have fun. And if you have any questions, you can always leave me a comment. Yes, sometimes it takes me a little bit of time to get back to you guys. I do try to catch the questions as quickly as I can. But when I work a job and I do videos on the side and I have, a family and whatever, sometimes I miss some of the comments, but I always respond to them all eventually. It just sometimes takes me a little bit of time. But if you ever have a question, leave me a comment if you want to, or shoot me an email, whatever. All my details are in the description, so you can always shoot me whatever kind of message you want to. But so this is what I mean when I said I wanted to add a highlight. So I ran the Tim Holtz Forest Shadows die set, and it's a set of these trees, and it's got 2 sets of trees, and then there are like stars and whatnot. I'm not going to use the stars for this card, but the 2 sets of trees I ran through, and one I ran through with a darker gray cardstock, and then one with a black cardstock. And then I'm just going to layer them up. But with that, I was thinking about where my light source was going to be from where I highlighted my sun in the background. And with that, I added a white highlight to the left-hand side of my trees. Now, it's hard to see here. You'll see it, of course, when I hold it up in a minute and at the end of the video, and you can kind of see what I've done. But I just kind of rubbed my white gel pen lightly along the edge of where I thought the sun would hit the trees. Now, granted, with this, they would be backlit, but let's just go with what we're doing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a card that I'm proud of. It doesn't need to be, an exact render of what it would look like, unless that's what you're going for. I'm not going for realism, so I'm okay with just having a fun highlight that I'm happy with. But if you want realism, of course, you can consider that. But I just added a highlight to the left-hand side of my trees, and I will hold that up so you can see it. And then you're going to see me near the end. I'm going to go back in and add just a little bit more highlight to the right-hand side of the trees that are underneath the sun. I mean, you would also see, if you were going for realism, you would have the light bouncing as well, but we're not going into that. We are just creating a really fun card with a side highlight. So that is all we're doing here. We're not going for crazy realism because my sky would be off if you were doing that too. So that's not what I'm after. But you did see that I layered my trees into my card, and then I did use an acrylic block just to hold them down, just because I find Yupo to be a bit interesting to glue things to. So I just find it easier if I add the glue and then have something kind of sit on top of it until it's weighed down. And this is an A2 sized base. I have no idea what size this Yupo is. It was just a leftover piece. I should have measured that before I got into this. If you guys want to know the exact size, send me write me a comment and I will measure it for you. But I don't know off the top of my head the exact size of what the Yupo was there. It was just a leftover piece I had from the 5x7 pieces. This was just kind of leftover. And then I am going to trim off any of the trees that are hanging outside of my A2 base, just because I kind of like the idea that, something's going on outside of the frame of this. I just think that looks really pretty. So that's kind of what I was thinking. But here is where I'm going to come back in and just add a little bit of highlighting. See here on the right side of these trees, because they're right underneath the sun. So in my head, I was thinking that the sun would actually kind of touch both sides of that tree. But again, there's no wrong way to do it. Make a card that makes you happy and you will win every time. Not that you're winning anything necessarily, other than that you've created something, which is a pretty good win. And then for my sentiment, I went with just something positive. I chose Shine Brightly from the Tim Holtz Noteworthy stamps. But you could literally if you can make this a birthday card, there's nothing, it's just a really cool sky with some trees. So it could lend itself to a lot of different types of things. And you could, if you wanted to, make like a night sky. Bring in, like 2 shades of blue and a purple and do a night sky and add some stars. Or there's loads of ways you could do this card in different colors and it would look really pretty. So thoughts for the future if you wanted to remake this card. And I did bring in some sequins just because I like sequins. I like bling. I like all things shiny. So I like to add things like this to my cards just because I love how it looks, but you don't have to. You could have just left it the way it was and that would be beautiful too. And for me, this is a pretty quick card to put together. We didn't do any crazy in-depth things other than if you wanted to play with the background a bit more, but I kind of like to make my background, get it to a point where I'm happy and then stop, because I do find if I continue, I'm not always happy with the direction that goes. So I do try to kind of stop myself when I'm happy and then just let it be, because I think it ends up being prettier with less control in my creating anyway. So that is the card I have for you guys today. I hope you've enjoyed it. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, and consider subscribing. I do new videos every Monday and Thursday. Thank you so much, guys, and I will see you again very soon. Bye-bye for now.